Hello, good evening, and welcome to the LFC Daytrippers. This is Man on Football Show, or Football in the World, as a lot of you people know it. I'm Gav, and with me I have got Keith, I have got Phil, and I had got Seany, but I don't know what he's done. He'll be back in a
Making a
second.
grand entrance.
Yeah, he's just waiting for the drum roll or something like that. I'm not too sure, but he's still there. We can't see him. He's turned off his camera or something.
I've out my window the blind tonight because people thought I was in a hospital the last night, but I'm not. I'm quite clearly
Well, it
here
wasn't
in
to
the
do with the
window. So
window. It was to do with the fact you look like you're in a robe, and you look the metal hanging off your mic looked like an intravenous drip. Um,
Hospitals have
it
windows
was.
as well, so I don't know
like
what this is
what
proving.
hospital? Like, have you ever been in where you go? Do you know what? You show a window, no one will think I'm in a hospital. Like, all of them have windows.
Should see what the hospitals are like in Turkey. That's all I'm saying.
Right. Okay. But look, tonight is all about Luis Suarez. We were having a chat last week about best moments in the Premier League and stuff like that, and his name came up, and we said, "Will we do something on him?" And everybody went yes. And I knew Keith would want him because Luis Suarez is South American, and despite Keith living on the Keys in Dublin, I think he's actually South American. So,
Yeah.
we've had a chat as to what way to do this. Will we go from the start and work our way through? But Shawnee quite rightly pointed out this is just going to go off on tangents everywhere. So, Keith, I'll start with you. Luis Suarez. It's probably fitting we give him a show to himself, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, Luis Suarez is, I'd say he's the craziest footballer of our generation. That's high profile. So you might get head cases that played, you know what I mean, and have their stories. But Suarez, for all the controversy that he's courted, is, in my opinion, one of the best forward players of all time, one of the best strikers. His goal record stands among the very best. The fact that he got in there and broke records in the Messi and Ronaldo era says it all. But he's just a phenomenal player. He's an absolute Marmite character. And look, we're Liverpool fans. We'll always sort of have a soft spot for Suarez, but Suarez and Liverpool is a very brief part of his story, and just everything about him is mad. He's one of my favourite players of all time. Just the way he plays, it's the type of footballer that excites me. He's all action. He's unpredictable. He's clinical. Do you know what I mean? Like, we're going to talk about his career. We're going to talk about the type of player that he is. But he wasn't just good at one thing. He was good at so many things, and he gets pigeonholed. I don't think he gets enough respect, and that's because of the controversies. Genuinely, I think he's one of the best forwards of all time, certainly of this generation, and I can't wait to talk more about him.
Shawnee, he's just outrageous as a footballer, you know, and people always pin 13, 14 down, but for majority of his Liverpool career, like, he was just fucking mental. And then he goes off and he shows, probably he actually just does show how fucking good he is when he goes to Barcelona. He not that he goes up a level, but the consistency from him in that team is unbelievable. He goes out to Atletico and wins a title there. You know, it's just an unbelievable footballer.
Yeah, like, kind of put the controversies to the side, which we shouldn't, by the way.
Yeah,
I'm
which we
sure it'll
won't.
be touched on at stages. But if you're just looking in a pure football sense, like Keith said, like Messi and Ronaldo aside, who's been better in the last 10 years, 15 years? I think now the kind of the fashionable shouts now are Lewandowski and Benzema, but I don't think either of them hold a candle to this fella. And I'm sure Phil will vouch, and even you lads, like, I think the true grasp of a player is, you kind of, when we talk about Messi, are always going, uh, imagine him playing in the 70s and the 80s. Like, I could imagine Suarez playing in every single era ever,
Yeah,
and just being okay because he's just ridiculous. Look, I'm gonna just get this out of the way first. There's a difference between best and greatest. When you call someone the greatest and you call someone the best, I don't think there's ever been a player with more football ability to play for Liverpool. Um, you can talk about Barnes, Gerrard, even Salah to an extent. They definitely all have greater legacies. But I think,
yeah.
in a pure footballing sense, 13, 14, Luis Suarez is the best version of any footballer ever that's played for Liverpool, in my opinion. He's the best player I've ever seen. a Liverpool jersey in the flesh in terms of performances. And what he goes on to do then after Liverpool, only for that, like, it knocks around. He's the exception to the rule. Normally, when you leave Liverpool, you go to shy. This fella left Liverpool, goes and wins a treble, and outscores Messi and Ronaldo in that season. So, like, he probably won't get the plaudits because a lot of people hate him. I even remember when he lined out against us for Barcelona, I fucking hated him. But
Yeah.
that's what Suarez is. He's when he's yours, you love him. When he's not yours, you absolutely fucking despise him. But on top of that, like, we'll get into it. But I just flicked on a thing today of like best Luis Suarez goals, and it goes on for 16 minutes.
Yeah. I can
You know,
imagine.
like it's 16 minutes, and I'm even thinking, oh, they left this goal out and they left that goal out. He just done some of the most outrageous things you've ever seen, like FIFA football, and I'm sure we'll get into it. But what a player, and his records stack up. He's got to retire as Barca's second highest all-time goal scorer, and I think he's something like the second most assists ever since assists are recorded in football. This fella is a number 9. He's you just run out of superlatives, fella. He's all kinds of fucking bonkers. I reckon he's actually the last of his kind because footballers now are white and white, PR trained up to their bollocks. This fella was a fucking yard dog from Montevideo who ended up in Europe and literally bit his way out of football clubs, which I'm sure Phil will talk about. He bit his way out of Ajax and he bit his way out of Liverpool. Literally, like, I'm going to put him gone. And Liverpool wouldn't sell him. He goes to the World Cup. I'm just going to fucking buy cheerleading and they're going to have no choice but to sell me. And he's just bonkers. Absolutely fucking mad. But
Phil, I've left the madness to you, and we'll talk about it more deeply as we go on, but the footballer is just outrageous, but the sideshow was as equally outrageous, wasn't it?
Look, for me, it's all about... This is what football's about, right? My favourite player until Suarez appeared was Maradona, and Maradona was equally as mad. If you think about the mafia and everything that was involved in, the way his life went and his genius, it was just brilliant, right? But Suarez managed to keep himself on the tracks, but still managed to find a way that he could throw snowballs when in the middle of a desert. Like, he's literally, he was the best thing to think about him. He was like a giant mosquito to everyone else in football, right? just fed off it, and he gloried in the absolute anti-hero status he had when he was doing like he. Oh, I go back to, and I think we'll talk about the incident itself, right? But to really get a gauge of Suarez, he's basically a coin with, he is two sides of the same coin. You have this amazing football and talent who gives so much to the community that is involved in, given so much to where he's grown up, did amazing things. Like at the 2010 World Cup, he was one of the few players that went out and met all the younger African players to try show them what it was like and how to come from the slums and how to come from nothing and get to Europe and the struggles they went through. Well, at the same time, claiming that he had saved the tournament and that the hand of God now belonged to him because he basically he saved the situation. Like, this is what he reveled. There's few players that you see with personality because they're so media trained that you don't know whether they're good crack in the dressing room or not good crack in the dressing room or anything. That's what makes Suarez different. You know, you can see the play. Anyone that's played with him, there isn't a single player that says they hated playing with him, right?
Yeah.
And when you think that after the incident with Evra, we had a whole team wearing T-shirts in support of him, right? Okay, that's insanity for a start, and we can come back to that in a bit. But not once has any of those players said that they didn't like Suarez, didn't like what he was around the team, didn't like, you know, you've never heard a story come out of him while he was at Liverpool saying that he was any type of a bad egg or anything like that. It's just, everyone's come out saying it was just amazing playing with him. He was just the most amazing fella, and he played the same way in training as he did on the pitch, and that wasn't just a make you up story. He was insanely brilliant in training as he was on the pitch. He just has this love of football, and then he seems to have this other side to him, which is away from the football pitch, which seems to be an incredibly conscientious and nice bloke. That just doesn't fit with the fella that's on the football pitch who's running around trying to be a vampire and eat lads when he gets bored with the team he's playing for. I just love him. I still love him now at the moment. The bit for me, I got really excited about 3 years ago when there was that sort of, is he going to leave Barcelona? Is he not going to leave Barcelona? And didn't he turn up at the training at, it was Melwood at the time, at the training pitch, and Klopp was having a chat to him and everything. There was an arm around, and I started getting really excited. And I'm not one for doing the nostalgia, bring a fella back just because he was great for us. But I kept thinking, like, Suarez is Bobby Firmino plus, right? He's a lethal goal scorer. He can play at the top of a midfield. He can play out wide coming in off the left. He can play through the centre. This was in his absolute prime. And it's when people talk about imagine Gerrard in a Klopp team, I just keep thinking, imagine 13-14 Suarez in that front three we had for the last 4 years. Imagine if that was Mane, Suarez, and Salah. That to me, and he gets to do this with Neymar and Messi at Barcelona. And you just, as Seany said, look, he's breaking records. It just showed you how good the footballer was. And the only reason he gets away with everything he's done is because of how good the footballer was.
Because he backs it up.
Yeah.
He backs it up, like, and that's the thing, like, you know, he's obviously Uruguayan. He plays for Nacional. I think Groningen pays something like less than £1 million from him in 2006, and he goes there. And I think I was looking up earlier. I have it there in front of me as well. Just shy of 60 games between Nacional and Groningen, 20 goals. But is it at Groningen where he first starts trying to eat people? Is it Groningen?
Well, I don't know, but there's certainly at Ajax when he first gets done. Yeah, maybe
right, okay.
No,
Maybe I'm wrong. I thought it was Groningen where he starts trying to eat people, but it's Ajax.
No,
he's at Ajax, 110 games, 81 goals for Ajax over a 4-year period. But Keith, like, even there, like, you know, Groningen 29 games, 10 goals. He just does one season. But he goes to Ajax, right? And if you read out his stats, Ajax 110 games, 80 goals. Liverpool 110 games, 69 goals. Barcelona 191 games, 147 goals.
I think that's only league as well. I think it's more when you take all competitions in.
Yeah, and then you have Atletico Madrid, 67 games, 32 goals. He's 68 goals in 132 games for Uruguay. It's just like he just backs everything up. Listen, we're going to go through different bits and pieces, you know, as we go along, and different things that's happened to him. But Keith, he backs it up wherever he goes beside the madness, doesn't he?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, he comes through in Uruguay. So he's from a town called Salto in Uruguay, and the same place that Edison Cavani is from. And the two of them are the same age and grew up sort of in the same neighbourhood. And with the careers they both went on to have, it's actually a great story. I don't know how big Salto is. It could be bigger than Ireland, you know what I mean? But the fact that two of them came from there and went through at the same time to have,
it's a very small country, Uruguay, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's tiny, nestled in between Argentina and Brazil. So it's not a big country. But you've got he goes to Nacional, one of the big teams in Uruguay. He leaves there, and the reason he leaves there is because he falls in love with his missus, and whole family moved to I think Barcelona. They relocate to Barcelona, and he's like, right, I'm going. I'm off to Europe. Ends up in Holland, goes to Groningen.
He had a drink problem, didn't he, when he was younger?
You are?
He had a drink problem when he was younger. Like, he was fond of a drink when he was like 15, 16.
He's at Holland a year while she's in Barcelona. They have a long-term relationship for a year. I read that about him earlier as well. So, but he's doing long-term relationship. He's doing long-distance relationship. Sorry.
It's constantly, and something Phil touched on was the thing he does off the pitch. You never heard of the off the pitch stuff, but if you look at how the likes of Messi reacted when he had to leave Barcelona, tells you everything you need to know about him. But he goes over to Holland, and obviously if you're banging in goals in Holland, you go to Groningen, and obviously he's not banging them in, but he's there making a name for himself. Ajax are looking at that, and he's probably he's young at this stage, because he's 35 now, so he's only
17, 18.
He's only a youngster. He's doing that. He goes to Ajax. I don't think he wins that much when he's at Ajax. I don't think he's winning leagues. You know, I think maybe back then you were looking at PSV Feyenoord were probably the dominant team in Ajax.
He wins a cup, I think,
Holland.
in
I think he
Holland.
wins the Dutch Cup, yeah.
He wins the league. He joins us. The year he wins, because plays the first half of the season. The year beforehand, he'd bitten someone, and in the Dutch league, and he got a 2-game ban and was fined by Ajax, right? And they win nothing. The following year, he moves to us. And that was after Real Madrid pulled out of a deal because of the biting incident, and we get him for half the price at the Christmas time.
Was he not banned when we bought him?
Yeah, he was. Yeah,
No,
he was banned when we
but
bought him.
that was for a separate incident.
There's a different boy.
That wasn't a bite. That was he'd had a row with club officials over the transfer, right? So, and they'd banned him at that stage from playing games in relation to the transfer itself. So, like, if you think about when he left us as well, he just said he's never playing for us again. So that was it. It was like, and
he couldn't wait to get out of us. Do you know what I mean?
Would be like, he plays for Ajax, he plays for Liverpool, and he plays for Barcelona, and he leaves all of them clubs being probably the greatest player, up there with the greatest players that ever played for those clubs. And you think of the names that have played for all three of those clubs, and he stands up there. Like, he was absolutely fucking ridiculous. Like, to think what he done in 13-14, and he's banned for 6 games at the start for biting someone again.
Yeah, he misses the first 5 games of the league season.
Yeah,
the ban comes I think at the back end of this previous season. I think he misses 1 game.
Chelsea, he bites Ivanovic, gets away with it, and then scores the winner in the last.
Scores the equaliser, yeah.
But he had a great year that year as well, didn't he? He was brilliant that season as well. Was he the top scorer in the league as well?
But you know what?
We know him and Sturridge.
Yeah, we know. Look, the Groningen stuff, National, Ajax, but you know he comes into where. Well, maybe my field of view anyway. When Liverpool are linked with him, he signs on the same day as Andy Carroll for just shy of 23 million, I think it was. Yeah. And the big talk was Andy Carroll, and Luis Suarez comes in and scores on his debut against Stoke, which is a bleeding bonkers goal as well because he goes round the keeper, hits it, the defender's running back, kicks her off his own post, and it goes in. And you know that's what January 2011, isn't it? When he's in and. But from in 11, 12, 13, you can see massive flashes of it. And he's hitting the post and the bar everywhere. But Phil...
He gets that one against away to Norwich, doesn't he?
Which one?
Where he scores in the halfway line, remember?
I think that's 12,
it's
14.
Ridiculous.
No, that was in his 4th season, I think.
11-12, he scores one away from the halfway line, and then he scores another one close to the halfway line.
He's in the Adidas jersey. I always remember, and I watched it back today. Watch the first goal he gets in that game. My fucking god, it's just ridiculous. He goes inside the fullback, nutmegs him, and outside of the boot, in off the post, across the goal. Just the most ridiculous. And the thing was, Gav, everyone was fucking gutted when Torres left. Everybody. And we forgot
Suarez,
about
2
weeks.
Yeah, because he was mental. And Phil, like, when he arrives, like 13-14 is where he just explodes. The season before, he's really good. But you can see from the very start, he's all action. He's afraid of nobody. He's getting stuck in. Nobody's pushing him over. He's nutmegging fellas. He loved this thing where he just kicked it off their shins, let it bounce back to him and just ran by them. Like, this was his thing. Like, you know where you go, Ronaldinho just floats past people. Luis Suarez used to just put his head down, hit out a fella's shins. The fella go, what the fuck is that? And then by the time you know it, it's come back to Suarez. He's knocked the by him and he's gone. And then he develops this thing where he flicks up onto the fella's hands and everything. Phil, he was just a fucking little wanker, but he was so good from the start, and it built to a massive crescendo with him at Liverpool.
If his 4th season was just because the first half season was and then the second season, because obviously Kenny's there when for the first full season that he's there, and you just go, you look at him, and I just remember he kept hitting the bar. My abiding memory of those seasons is he just kept hitting the bar, and he kept hitting the bar with ridiculous
19
shots.
times or something.
Yeah, it's like that season you kept thinking to yourself, if it was just half an inch, we could have been challenging for the Champions League or challenging for top 4 that year. Because like every time we played, Suarez would do something ridiculous and then hit the bar and come back out. And you just go, why isn't that going in? And if they go in, and you always say to yourself, is that just luck or is it just bad finishing? And as it turns out, like but this is his own evolution. Like he himself, when he was at Groningen, said, "I'm not a good finisher. I need to learn how to finish." Right? Now that was his own quote in terms of what was there, and that was before he even went to Ajax. And he said himself in a number of interviews, it wasn't until he got to Liverpool that the finishing started to click for him in terms of being known when to have different types of finishes in different situations. He either wanted to pass everything into net, and like think of it, one of his trademarks was scoring free kicks against Joe Hart from about 4,000 miles away and just curling the ball into the under the walls and into the bottom corner with no power. Like I used to always look at that going, this is ridiculous. But he was basically just passed into net. It just like I just think back to that initial phase with Kenny, and I struggle until Salah comes along. I struggle to remember being as excited as of the impact a fella is having immediately on how you view games and how you want to watch a match, because it was every time he gets the ball, like your point, Gav, it didn't matter whether you could have put him in the middle of the 80s when a pitch with no grass, right, and divots taken over, and the ball would have been bounced, and he'd be the only one that could just be able to dribble through. I haven't seen a player with that level of ability to dribble, no matter what's going on in front of him, ever. And I still don't. You can't show me anyone in world football. Everyone that dribbles incredibly has this graceful ability to move the ball with their feet. This was just
pure plundering through people. Like
this is mad. This is mad.
And that's the key. Through people.
Yeah, it's like
he's not going around. He's literally, how can I get past this in the quickest time possible? Boom, whacking it through their legs, going over around the side of them. I'm going every way I can just to get past this person. It's so like if you look at, and sorry for cutting across you there, Phil, but if you look at some of the great dribblers, it's all elegance, and it's all little step overs here, go around and gliding past. Suarez was the opposite. He was a fucking bull in a china shop, and it was just great to watch. It was great.
But it worked because, if you're up against Ronaldo in his Ronaldo days when he was a winger and he was running at you step overs and trying to go inside you, Ronaldinho, whoever, Messi, you're waiting for that body swerve. You're waiting for that little slight touch of the football. Dummies, whatever. This wasn't him. Luis Suarez was to get it. Suarez would just literally go and go, I'm going that direction, and if you're in my way, I'm going through you. I don't care, because I don't think he was the fastest in the world. He's 6 foot tall, so he's not a massive player. He's so fucking strong though. He's a really good footballing brain. But everything overall for me when I watched him, and we'll get into the antics and stuff because we have to talk about them. But everything for me was his drive to win was just out of this world. Like, I mean, and I'm not even talking about you have to win the game. His drive to win every little fucking battle he was in was unbelievable. A bit like your man's at Wolves now, Diego Costa. He'd love to go out and just be fucking lunatic, you know what I mean, and had to win every little battle. Yeah, that was Suarez, but he was making fools of people.
Yeah,
with the most stupid fucking thing. Yeah, I know, but Suarez
is like a little cerebral assassin. He was like, it was like the ball turned into a ping pong ball at his feet, and the only person on the pitch that was able to control it was him. But like, Keith's talking about the elegance and all there, but then you look at some of the fucking goals he scores, like
outrageous.
The one against Newcastle, like
over the shoulder.
Yeah, but he takes the ball down and goes around the keeper before it touches the ground.
Yeah.
Like it's just like he's scoring headers from the edge of the 18-yard box. He can take free kicks. He can score from 40 yards. He can head the ball. Back post happens, like overheads, bicycle kicks, you name it. The fucking
is it the same?
There's a quarter point against Stoke where he just puts the ball through a man's legs.
Yeah, that's up on screen there. Sam Tandy says, yeah,
like
he's getting booed to fuck, and then he just literally takes the ball down. The whole stadium is booing him, and he just nutmegs the fullback and just bends it, and I mean properly bends it, and then scores about 5 minutes later with a header again when he looks a mile offside.
You take it away from Liverpool, like. Cantona joins United and he goes into a good team. Suarez joined us when we were poor. Let's be honest. Yeah. If we had a decent centre half, like if we had 2 decent centre halves that could have stayed fit, he would have been Liverpool's Cantona. He would have been the catalyst to get us the league title, to get us over the line, because he nearly does it on his own in 13-14. Now he has a bit of a supporting cast with Sterling and Sturridge and Gerrard, but you think we were only really like 2 really good centre halves staying fit.
No,
and
just
maybe
two
a goal.
competent centre halves, and we would
That's
have been
all.
fine.
Like just that's exactly
Like
that.
this
And
fella's,
that's literally all.
banging in. He's helping score 101 goals, right at
Yeah.
one end, and he's looking down the lane going, "These cunts are conceding
Like,
50."
and he would have bounced then, and that would have been his legacy at Liverpool. Because unfortunately, like his legacy at Liverpool, looking from the outside in, is gonna be the controversies. But we look at the goals and we think of the moments. But that was literally, he was so close to being Liverpool's Cantona, and I think a lot of people don't. I think he's a better player than Cantona from what
Of
I've
course he
seen.
is.
Oh, he was. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, but in terms of the impact a single player could have on a team, on a club, because like you said, Gav, it was the will to win. Like the little things. Remember the goal against United where Couch scores a hat trick? Like the little scuffle in the middle of the park, and he fucking pulls Raphael.
You're
by the
thinking
head.
exactly the same as I'm thinking, because I'm thinking to
And
myself,
Raphael turns around, doesn't know what's going on, and then Suarez is scurrying over to the ref saying, "Send him off, Raf, that's me pulling your man's hair."
I'm
And then
actually
he
only
gets
thinking
back-
about that. I'm literally sitting here saying to myself, was it the same game where he literally ran United ragged, right? Goes round about 11 of them, and then Coit robs the goal on him, right? And in the same
He
motion,
Coit gets a hat-trick.
he's reaping a fella's hair in the middle of the park going, "Shut up, you dope."
Yeah,
You know
and then he
what I
gets kicked. He gets kicked. He's howling his ankle, but as the ball breaks, he breaks
Turns.
his roll into his stride and carries on the ball. He was just fucking madness. Like Phil said, when you watched, he made you watch football. He made you want to watch Liverpool again.
Yeah, he was a player that you had your hands in your head when you seen them do some stuff. Like you genuinely
and
just
the
had your hand in your head going,
celebrations and
"What is going on here?" Disbelief.
Yeah, his score against Norwich, like he
Now you're
turns
ruining
around
all
to
the
top
moments
now.
for later. You're
No,
ruining all
because
the
I
moments for
can't
later.
have so many of them. You can even get into Barcelona, even the stuff you done at Barca. Like the fella was just, and you listen to Cardigan and Gerrard and all talking about.
Gerrard adored him.
Well, of course he did.
No, but not brilliant footballer. But Gerrard adored him because so many players over the years since Gerrard's been there have walked in the door. Peter Crouch tells a brilliant story about it, where you go in and Gerrard, the first thing he'll do with you in the training game is he'll fizz something at you as a forward at like 100 mile an hour, and he expects you to kill that dead, and in your second touch set him up for a shot or whatever it might be. And Crouch was really nervous over it, got through it, and Gerrard liked him. But Gerrard adored Suarez because Suarez came in and went, "You lash that as fucking hard as you want at me, because if I have to, I'll overhead kick it in the net. If I have to, I'll do something." And do you remember going back to, they win away at Southampton, and Gerrard just turned around and goes, "You want to play 2 against 2 against Suarez and Sturridge?
all the
Best of
best.
luck, all the best," because it's just not going to happen. I have to get on to some of the moments though, because we're going to go through all the great goals and stuff as much as we can later. We have to go through some of the controversies, and Phil,
before we do that, right? I just want, as we get into it, right? I want you to think, right? Because the best description of Suarez that I read when I was sort of doing even a bit of research, which I never do for pods anymore, but on this one was, Suarez was described, right? Because they were talking about his time at Ajax and the time at Barcelona and the players he played with, and this an incredible ability to dribble with the ball, right? And they talked about the way Marco van Basten, who was his manager at one stage, had this, this beauty and this grace, the way he glided with the ball and how Messi glides with the ball and hold on. Suarez was more of a hypercharged rooster in a cockfight, oozing emotion, easily provoked and racing down on goal. And I thought to myself, that is literally the best description of Suarez on a football pitch, because he had that little barrel chest and because I knew Keith was on and he always knows everything about everything. But so I'd done a bit of research, so I wasn't sitting here like a chump in terms of what we were going to talk about, right? And what people don't know is that when he went to Groningen, I think to back to Seany's, but I don't think it was drink. I think it was food that he had a problem with, right? Because they wouldn't let him play until he got down to 82 kilos, right? I swear to God, right? He was so chubby when he arrived in Groningen, and this was after they'd spent 4 times more than what they planned on spending, because they wanted to buy his upfront teammate. But as we get into the madness, I think people need to remember there's a certain level of madness when it comes to transfers with Suarez that's existed right from the off, right? And one of the stories I read was when he was playing at under 9s, right, in his local team in Irareta, he was scouted for Nacional, I think it was, in terms of the team that they wanted to bring into him, and he walked off the pitch and said, "I'm never playing for this again, I'm going to play for Nacional," right? When he gets to Groningen, right, he insists, goes down and says, no, I'm going to stay for 2 years, and I promise you I'll give you 2 years. At the end of the season, Ajax want to sign him, right? They won't refuse to let him go. He takes a court case to the Dutch FA demanding that he's allowed transfer to Ajax, right? So eventually it was thrown out, but Ajax up their bid and get him. Think about it, he comes to us and does everything to get out, and didn't he promised one last season. Do you remember he promised the one last season, which was 13-14 in terms of what was there? Then after that, he was gone. So, like, Suarez has this thing in his head that he always knew he was heading in a direction. I think going back to Keys, he always wanted to get to Barcelona. Obviously, his missus had moved there and was living there, and he wanted to. And you could see from the start that when Barcelona came sort of sniffing, that fella's head was turned almost immediately. But that was just in line with what the fella did from the complete start of his career. But he's never been far from controversy, and as I said to you, when he got the Groningen, it was trying to get his weight under control. Then he has when he's at Ajax, he's biting lads. It's like the biting thing. I think is a fascinating piece around him in just in general, because he just does 3 times. This isn't like
I think that is like Gav said, the ultimate winner. When you look back, it actually looks like some sort of coping mechanism he has that just things aren't going his way. Look, it sounds like I'm not actually making excuses for him. I'm just trying to make sense of it, because it's the chimp. Yeah. Chimp. It's the inner primate. This is not going my way. What can I do? I'm gonna buy him. I don't even know how that make you feel better. But the thing is, if someone does something like that weird on the pitch, you probably throw you off, and you don't gonna. It didn't. He just kept going, and the best, like, he bites Seany and then goes to the ref. My teeth are killing me. Like, he's had to put his shoulder into my mouth, and Seany's showing the fucking bite marks.
The bite.
This fella doing.
This fella's had to sticking his shoulder right in my mouth, like, it's ridiculous.
He starts holding his teeth.
Yeah. Let's go back to Patrice Evra, because that's the first one in England where you go, what the fuck's going on here? Of course, this all kicks off Liverpool and United. There's accusations made by Evra. It goes through a panel.
Sorry, Gav, can I just, because you can't go to the Evra thing without putting the context behind it, right? And I think it's so key to it, because he has the biting incident in Holland. So when he goes into the 2010 World Cup, everyone knows that there's this really gifted striker that's playing for Uruguay, that's from the Dutch league. There's massive eyes on the Uruguayan team because Diego Forlan is their figurehead in that thing. And you've got these 2 up-and-comers in Cavani, and you have Suarez, right? And this is all they wanted to talk about. So you have a fella who's lighting up the tournament. People, when you go back to 2010, like, he's lighting up that tournament, that Uruguayan team, in terms of what they were doing. People watching these, and they're seeing this dribbling.
Look at all this type of comments, lad. Just trying to get a penalty when the keeper handled the ball.
Yeah, that's right.
That's right. Everything this fella has done.
Yeah. Remember the keeper caught the ball? He was like this to the ref, like fucking handball.
So the World Cup, you've got 2010. He hasn't. He signs for us. Isn't winter after the World Cup?
Yeah. So the World Cup is 2010. He signs for us in the January in 11.
So you have that, right? And I've always had an issue with this. So Ghana are the last African team left in it. It's in South Africa. There's this big thing about, Pele said back in 1994 that an African team would win the World Cup before the year 2000. I know his maths wasn't great given how many tournaments were going to be left, right? And there was a real...
He basically told Africa, you better win in France, or like, I'm going to look like a fucking idiot.
Start questioning his 1,000 goals.
Yeah.
He's still got this fellas haven't taken the piss.
He added a goal. He added a goal every time he had made a press conference at that stage. I did an ad for Agra. Anyway, but so there was, so you have this piece that was going on that, South Africa being knocked out and Ghana was the last African team in the World Cup being held in Africa. And it was a great Ghanaian team, and they were really excited as well. You had these 2 really exciting sides playing against each other. And those last couple of moments, because this gets to me, because it's a bit like when Thierry Henry handled the ball against us, right? And the whole nation got really upset about it. And all that, but even though it was only a draw at the time, we would have just drawn the game as opposed to anything, right? So this is a fantastic save, and it is a fantastic save. It's point blank. They should score it, so there's no excuses. It's a really, really, really bad effort at a shot. Makes a great save. The ref gives a penalty, gets sent off. We shouldn't even ever be talking about this. The fact is, Asamoah Gyan hits a penalty worse than Yapstam has ever taken in his whole life, right? Sends the ball out of Africa back to Europe for the next World Cup. That's how bad the penalty was, and they go on to lose on penalties. Like, you know,
but that was the last kick. That was the last kick of extra time, wasn't
it? The best part, Phil. He's standing in the tunnel watching the penalty, and then he turns around to all the Ghana fans when he saves it. And he's fucking giving it a large, and then the Florida fish lads come out and send him. He's standing in the tunnel waiting for your man to take the penalty. And then when he misses, he starts giving it a big one to all the Ghana fans.
I have to say, at that point, I absolutely adored him. I swear, you know, I love a player who has just this devilment in them, this absolute devilment in them.
You have to look at it like that, because you think to yourself, what a thing to do, like, right? Not only, like, all right, he stops a goal for Ghana, right? He sacrifices himself guaranteed for the next round, which would have been a semi-final, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
And you're kind of going, so the sacrifice there's just being a prick to Ghana, and then there's just like that complete winning mentality when they win. There's no kind of, I got away with that one, because I'm kind of looking at the TV at the time going, jeez, he's actually doing well there to get away with that. There's none of that. He's fucking jumping around the place like as if they've scored a winning penalty. Like it's just mental.
But it's mad, because in that, right, so that's the last kick of the game, when Jan misses that penalty. It goes to penalties, and I think Jan takes the first penalty of the shootout, scores it. Yeah, he scores the first penalty of the shootout. But it just showed his head was cabbaged from that moment, and Suarez is reveling in it. And I agree, that's one of the greatest World Cup moments for me as well. I just think it's absolutely amazing. But it just shows the will to win, the mentality of this fella. And that's before he's even come to Liverpool. That's before anyone knows, before any of the other
fallout. Sorry, Keith, and this is why I want to go. It's so important that this happens, right? Because the fallout from that game is the tabloids in England have a field day about this fella the next day, right? About the cheat, and it's disgraceful that someone who cheated like this is allowed to continue, even though he misses the next game, that a team is allowed to continue in the World Cup, and it was a blatant cheat.
Maradona comparisons and stuff like that.
Yeah, absolutely, all over the place. So straight away, Suarez has a notoriety. He hasn't even signed for Liverpool at this stage, but he has this notoriety that's behind him. And when they're digging into it, they found out that he's biting fellas in Holland. So there's this whole Suarez the cannibal. There's all this type of stuff that's already in the press before.
Weren't they putting up pictures of him with like fucking the Hannibal Lecter mask and everything on him?
Mask on, yeah.
Yeah.
It was fucking mad.
So I just remember that was when he did that, and I was there going, like, for me, this is about winning. This guy is in my head was the World Cup. He's actually sacrificed himself and weakened his team for the next round if they get through. But that's the ultimate. That's what ultimate winners do. They don't. They never ever stop. They never ever relentlessly stop, and they never give their teams. They never stop giving their teams the best chance at winning. And in his mind, he had to do it. If that ball goes in, they're out. And he wasn't the only one trying to make the save. By the way, their captain was it Diego
Lugano.
Lugano was the other fella who dived to make the save and missed it. He wasn't as good in goal as Suarez was. Suarez was really good.
Well, Torres from Ghana. He says, I blame Dominic Adeyemi and Gyan more than Suarez. Suarez is a prick, but Ghana should have punished him and Uruguay. Before we get on to the Evra stuff and everything else, I have to read out a couple of ads to keep the lights on as we do. So now a word from our sponsor, BetterHelp. It can be tough to train your brain to stay in problem-solving mode when facing a challenge in life, but when you learn how to find your own solutions, there's no better feeling. A therapist can help you become a better problem solver, making it easier to accomplish your goals, no matter how big or small. If you're thinking of giving therapy a try, BetterHelp is a great option. Convenient, accessible, affordable, and entirely online, and done to suit your needs. Get matched with a therapist quickly, and after filling out a brief survey, you can switch therapists at any time. So it's very flexible in what they do. When you want to be a better problem solver, therapy can get you there. Visit betterhelp.com/daytrippers today to get 10% off for your first month. That's betterhelp.com/daytrippers. Paramount Plus have all the Champions League this season streamed live on their streaming service, Paramount Plus, of course. all the goals, all the games, injury time, normal time, extra time, whatever it might be. Do not miss a goal this season with Paramount Plus and the Champions League. Somebody was on, a few people have been on about that and said, yeah, they have it and they love it. A couple of people said, does it work? It does. But if you're going to stream from America, you might need your little VPN to sort that out. If you need a VPN, IP Vanish is one to look at as well. They're a brilliant deal from IP Vanish from us at the moment, 70% off. I think it works out about $38 over the year, but that will help you with your data, your passwords, encrypt all your details and even your location and stuff like that. 4.6 out of 5 on Trustpilot. So if you need a VPN, head to ipvanish.com/daytrippers. Patrice Evra, Luis Suarez, this just blew up in a massive way, Keith. Like, you know, there was a hearing. Kite was there saying, I don't know, but I was there and I didn't fucking hear that, and it was all going off. And then we had people doing, they were lip reading, and then it was all a bit cloudy for me as to how it went about and the process of it and how they came out with what they came out with. But he ends up getting done. And how many games did he get?
100, and we got done because Lionel Hutz was his attorney. Like, let's be honest about this, right?
Was it a 5? I asked Keith.
No, it was more than
7.
that. Was it not like, I thought it was
7.
12?
No,
7.
he gets a
Shawnee's on
6
mute
game.
there.
He gets a 6 game ban for biting Ivanovic. I think he misses the last day of the season and 5 the following
He
season.
got
But
8 games he did
for
Yeah,
Everett.
that sounds about right.
Right, so he gets 8 games for this
And it was,
keeper.
I remember it because I think it was, if I remember correctly, I think it might have been like the day before Christmas Eve. He gets banned because I remember we played Wigan away,
Right.
and that's when I remember it, 8 games.
Yeah,
and I remember,
yes.
You know what? I was a fucking like it literally. I was a young fella, and it showed like the worst in football fans because we all got tribal and we defended him, but you can't defend what he did. Do I think Suarez is a? I'm just gonna get out of the way. Do I think Suarez is a racist? No, I don't.
No.
Did he do? He done what he done, and I'd say it was just more of a reactionary thing. And I know now from being with a Spanish speaker that it's kind of, it's not like he said what he said, but it's not like it's not like if I said it in English. It's not. It's you can't do what he done, but do you get what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It brought out the worst of it, and it did. It was a really when you look back, it's fucking embarrassing. When you look back,
Yeah,
in my opinion,
you touched on it there. It's tribalism, isn't it? It's tribalism at its worst.
It is fucking embarrassing. It's embarrassing. But you know why we did it? Because he was better than us as a player. He was above us. He was too good for us. And we were Liverpool, who were in the shy for the best part of 2 decades, and we did it and to protect this fella. And we did. And in hindsight, it was fucking.
The thing that I always took from it, right? What I always took from it was, yeah, we defended him. Kenny Dalglish came out and defended him, but I think that was more down to the media reaction to the whole thing and I wouldn't say kangaroo court element of it, but it was a little bit. He was thrown to the wolves, and I think it was. No matter what, I think the World Cup thing, everything was building up to that, and I think it was anything just to hammer him. And I think that's where Dalglish and all sort of came from, was like, no, they're just going after him. They're going after him. He didn't do what he promised he didn't do. We know he did say what he said. It's not acceptable. As Seany said, Spanish speakers, it's a different way than it is here. What I felt from the whole case and reading it was, I felt it was very one-sided. And I don't know if Liverpool didn't want to go into it. He said this and he said that. Manchester United did. Alex Ferguson was happy to get involved. He's defending his player. You know, no issues with that really. But I just always felt it was really Liverpool wore the t-shirts, but I don't think they really. I don't know. I think Manchester United were much more forceful in that, and you know, lip readers and all this sort of stuff. And he said this. I mean, Patrice Evra, I think his story was quite patchy on what was said. He said it so many times. he shouldn't have done it. He got punished for doing it. We defended him because football is a tribal thing and football fandom is tribal, and Liverpool, Manchester United is as tribal as it gets over here. And would we do it again? No, I don't think so. I think we all learned. But you'd like to think that, but who
And
knows?
at the
But yeah,
same
it was
time,
bad.
I don't think I'm wrong in saying this, that it wouldn't have been so much of a witch hunt if it had been Maxi Rodriguez who said it. It was
Yeah.
the fact that Suarez was so good really drove it in with the likes of Evra and Ferguson. And look, he did what he fucking did. And people are saying in the chat there, Cavani got a 1-game ban last year for using the same term. So
Yeah,
it's
but
one of them
The
things.
way,
You know what? He had it. He kept pointing people. He didn't keep
Yeah.
racially abusing people. So that'll tell you
That
all you
tells you
need
what
to
you
know.
need to know. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Nail on the head. How many other times has he been accused of racism? None. So
I
we
was,
can put it to
I,
bed
I,
he's not a racist.
I have to say now, the bit that always bothered me around this was, and it's something that bothers me even in modern day society, is it's the lack of acceptance of different societal and cultural norms on people from different countries. Now, I'm not saying that one, it was acceptable, which I'm not. But there can be a difference in intent between one person from one country to another person from a different country. Like that's basically what it is. You're basically dealing with a person from France and a person from Uruguay. Okay, so just, and I'm not claiming the term was right, wrong, or different. The term was, and it can be true that both Patrice Evra found it racist, right, and thought he was being abused racially, and it can also be true that Suarez was being a smart little bollocks, but wasn't necessarily trying to throw racist abuse at him, right? So there's that always been that blurred line for me in terms of where this thing went to. And it's very similar to an awful lot of things that you see nowadays, where even in the English speaking world, like there's euphemisms used in Ireland which would be deeply offensive in America that wouldn't be even known in England. And likewise, you hear people saying things that are American going, how what the hell is going on there? Like, do you know what I mean? That wouldn't be used here. And the more we try to criticize these things as opposed to understanding what's the context before we get into it, then the less color we have in society, because everything becomes grey and bland in terms of what it is. And like, I don't believe in empowering words. I don't believe in racism in any way, shape, or form. In terms of what's there, but I just always felt that the nuances that existed in this discussion was lost because it was driven primarily through tabloid journalism. And it was also around the time that social media exploded, and you have this deep tribalism that set in between clubs that really didn't exist up until that point. You know, the chants and stuff you'd hear would be the ones that were at the games, and suddenly you had this echo chamber of different sides that existed during games that just grew and grew and grew, and then drove behaviours outside of the matches, and then ultimately internally in the stadiums itself. And the reaction to the likes of the t-shirts and stuff like that was as much a reaction to people trying to deal with what was real and what wasn't real in terms of the social media context, because this was the first time something like this massive had blown up to where I was. And like I go back to today, if and I think the lads are making a fair point around.
Laszlo makes a great point there in the chat. To be fair, like perspective is always going to be skewed, but like it's for white fellas on a podcast talking about it, and that like you do need to have that kind of guys looking at it. But then
sorry, Vase of Flowers just keeps saying, "Say it." Say what? Just tell us what you want us to say, Vase of Flowers.
He's Vase of Flowers is obviously a fucking moron. But listen, you need to look at then. The problem is, look, he did what he did, and he was done for racism, and he was rightfully done. And I'll say, boy, he did that. I don't think he's a racist. All right, I think someone who's racist it's a completely different fucking story. But when you look at who was throwing this shit at him, the English media, and there's literally nobody more racist than them. They do it to their own. They attack their own national team players. Look at the fallout of the Euros, the penalty shootout, and sort of the guys and the headlines they put out. You kind of just had to draw a line in the sand with it. I think the important thing is that when you're talking about Suarez and his brilliance, that you do acknowledge this, because it is a dark spot in his career. It's a blotch on the page, and he was done for it. And I think in hindsight, we can all put our hands up and say, yeah, do you know what, Liverpool, you made an absolute bollocks of that. And we did. We absolutely.
I don't disagree. I think at the time,
wrong. I think, to be honest, I'm not. You're gonna get little edge lords in the chat and the comments after this go, oh, talk about the racism. But I'm gonna ask, can we just get off this now? Because we come on here to talk about how good he was as a footballer. And that's the reason why we're here. We're not fucking here with pitchforks to go on and get all political about it. I just think it's important that we acknowledge it. Because
you have to acknowledge it as part of the story.
We didn't just gloss over it.
Yeah.
He did what he did. He wasn't a repeat offender.
Not in that way. He wasn't.
The other match he did. Do you know what I mean?
Look, as a footballer, we've said it loads of times, he just gets better and better during his Liverpool career. But, you know, he has that thing wherever he's banned for whatever amount of games is, right? And then you start seeing the stuff. The season where 12-13, he gets a 10-game ban for biting Ivanovic, right? Because when I was saying 6, I was thinking that doesn't feel right. He gets a 10-game ban for biting Ivanovic in April 2020. Sorry, April 2013. He serves 5 of those at the end of that season.
Listen to the conversations we're having.
Right?
It's like he was out with an ACL. He gets a 10-game for ban for
10-game ban.
This was his break.
No,
this is how he got a break.
He serves.
He never got injured.
No, it gets better. It gets better, right?
Injured.
He gets a 10-game ban in April 2013. All right, for biting Ivanovic. It's not spotted at the time. He scores the equaliser in a 2-2 draw with Chelsea, right? He serves 5 of those games. Now this is Suarez, right? He gets 5. He serves 5 of those games at the back end of that season. Turns around to Liverpool after being banned for the last 5 games and says, "I want to go because you told me I could go. We didn't get the Champions League." Right? They say, "No, you're not going anywhere." Arsenal throw in the 40 million on £1. John Henry's like, "What the fuck are they smoking?" Right? He does a big write up in the Guardian, I think it was, big fucking 4-page fucking interview about how he's being exiled at Liverpool. And it's like, what the fuck's going on here, right? Liverpool are saying, we didn't break any promises to you. You're not going anywhere. And most players would go, I'm not fucking playing, right? I'm not playing. Doesn't. Just serves out his 5 games, comes back, plays 33 league games, scores 31 goals, has about 15 assists, and gets so close to bringing the title to Liverpool. Like, it just shows, I think, that series of incidents from April 2013, you know, right through to the end of the 2014 season when we got on to another incident. I think it exactly shows. It exactly shows what
he claimed the buyout clause. Didn't he claim the buyout clause?
Yeah, no, he claimed, what he claimed was that Liverpool had promised that he could go for a certain amount of money if Liverpool did not make the Champions League for the 2014.
So a gentleman's agreement.
Season.
And who was his agent?
Guardiola's brother.
Per Guardiola.
Yeah, well, that's the timeline for that. But it shows the madness of him. Another ban. He wants to get out. He's training on his own, and then he just comes back and decides, "Fuck it, I'll just be the best forward in the world." Keith, it's mental.
Yeah, it was unbelievable. It was, and when you think of that season as well, 13-14, he tails off as well at the end of the season. So he misses the first 5. He absolutely marmalades the league for the next 20 odd, and then probably the last 5 or 6, he's probably just hit the wall at that stage, and he was just outrageous. And you know, the type of goals that he scored, he's not just scoring one type of goal. You know, a lot of players have a signature goal. What's Suarez's signature goal? The 40-yard sort of smack, the outside of the boot, bender, the free kick. Do you know, like what's the trademark? He doesn't have a trademark because he scores them all. And I think the fact that he came back from the racism incident and the biting incident, and he made the media, the footballers, the footballing world in England, they had to put their hands up to him the next season because he was absolutely out of this world. It was one of the best individual seasons you'll see from a player, and it's just the Suarez story, you know what I mean? Like, he comes back from what he comes back from. As you said, another Boynton incident. This is a second Boynton incident and a racist ban, and it's water off a duck's back to him. Do you know what I mean? It's water off a duck's back. Phil said it jokingly there. That was his break. Ronaldo used to get sent back to Madeira, didn't he, for a few weeks every winter to recharge the batteries. Suarez would get an 8 or a 10 game ban. And that's when he'd recharge himself as well. And he just always came back. And between all this as well, you had all these diving accusations, and he was a diving bastard as well. And you David Moyes, you touched on it last week, and I thought your show was great last week when you went through all these things. But you have David Moyes calling him out and all before the derby, and he's going over.
But David Moyes calls him out to bigger up to the Everton fans, to be on him on everything, right? And on Liverpool, he calls it out so that the officials, right, will be on top of Suarez and not give him a thing during the game. He calls it out so the media will have to run up to this game 2 and 3 days in advance, all about Suarez diving and fair play to the thing. And what's he do? He just scores. He doesn't dive, he just fucking scores and runs over and dives in front of him, not giving a single fuck, Keith.
Yeah. No, he was ridiculous, you know. And that season, the 13-14 season, you know, we spoke about, and again, you touched on it last week, but you said it earlier, you've Suarez, you've Sturridge, you've Sterling, you've Coutinho, you've Gerrard. You've got a great team. But you mentioned it earlier, is the West Brom header. It's Ali Sissoko that's crossing the ball to him. It's Victor Moses. It's Martin Skrtel. It's, you know, it was an absolute who's who was shy beyond that little cluster. And Suarez just tried to put it all on his back and go. And look, it didn't work out. It didn't happen for him that year. But Liverpool were always a stepping stone for him. And people got the hump over that. But when you look back now, and if you knew the thing, it was always only a stepping stone. And people were still burnt after the Torres thing. So he comes in, replaces Torres. And I don't know if people felt that maybe they got attached again, but I think the Suarez one was always different. You could tell, if you were honest with yourself, you done everything to get out of Liverpool from the minute you got there.
He engineered his move in the end. He made it so he couldn't stay. You know, like he bites again at the World Cup.
But he turns up in the five games into 13-14, right? Liverpool have beaten Manchester United, Aston Villa, and Stoke 1-0 in each game, right? Yeah, Sturridge scores, right? Can't remember who their 4 games against. It might be a draw against somebody, but they go to Sunderland.
A draw against Southampton at home,
right? But they go to Sunderland, right? And Sunderland is a big stadium, 50,000 people in the stadium, right? Sunderland are noisy at the time, you know. And he turns up there, and they're all giving him dog's abuse. What's he do? Just scores, right? About fucking 5 minutes in, just bangs one in. He's setting up goals for Sturridge all over the place, and you're like, what? He does not give a fuck. You know what I mean? And you can actually see the Sunderland crowd.
Norwich?
No. The Norwich one is where he misses a good chance. They all start booing him and cheering at him, and he just robs the ball off the centre half.
14 minutes they just spent. Norwich had this weird hatred of him, right? It's bizarre if you go back and watch.
Sorry, R. Allison is right. 2 all away at Swansea was the game.
Yeah, we got beaten at home to Southampton as well. Lovren scored a corner.
But his first game back is definitely Sunderland away. And he just turns up and he's just like, yeah, I'll just score goals. And I'll just score goals.
The first game at Anfield I was there was against Palace. And Sturridge scores and Suarez scores. And I just remember him, like, 2-0 up, like, nothing to play for in the second half. And I remember because I was sitting in the lower main stand at the time. It wasn't all done up, but I was sitting in the lower main stand at the time, literally down at the front. And a ball goes over the top. And the line-up blows for offside, and he's trying to tear his head off. And we're winning. The game is over. There's about 5 minutes left. And he's roaring at the lines, man. I'm going, that's fucking nuts. He was just insane.
Well, let's talk 13-14 because it's one of the best individual seasons I've seen by Liverpool player. Not only goals scored, assists, just the way he plays. Phil, it's just a brilliant season from him. It is from the team, in fairness, but he just he doesn't quite have the team on his back on his own. I wouldn't go that far because I think loads of
Sturridge is brilliant.
Sturridge is brilliant. I think Henderson's brilliant that season.
Coutinho's a good
Coutinho has a
season.
big role, but Phil, it's
Sturridge,
just,
Sterling, and Suarez. That's the three
yeah.
S's, right?
But it just went fucking mad, didn't it?
But it doesn't start off mad. He starts off mad, right? People forget this, right? He starts off mad. We're just about in the running for top 4 coming up to December. This thing explodes after Christmas. And I remember because we started the podcast that year. I remember the Crystal Palace game because I was calling Martin Maldini. That was Martin Kelly at the time. I reckoned he was going to be as good as Paolo Maldini. That's how highly I rated Martin Kelly. I think his name Force probably did. But I just remember that season and thinking to ourselves, if we could get Champions League in the 4th season of doing this podcast, it would be amazing. And I remember there was question marks of Rodgers. There was question marks of where this thing was going to. Was it going to be tippy-tappy football? How was this thing going to pan out? What was it going to look like? But all the while, you had this undercurrent of Suarez doing mad stuff week in, week out. And I'll go back to that was the one thing you were watching these games and you had these three up front, but led by Suarez. He used to my prevailing image of him in my head when he's playing for Liverpool is being out on that left flank. He was the opposite to Salah. He was out on that left flank and he used to just have these dagger cuts in from the left hand side all the time. And the other two lads would be moving all over the place. That will create space because defenders
Sterling doesn't really come into it until
Sterling has a stinker at Christmas and he's
nearly... He has a stinker away a Hull and loads of fans don't want him to play with Liverpool. And then it just something happens.
That's what I'm saying to you.
It's the Arsenal 5-1. That's where it fucking really just goes mental.
It just goes off. But that first half... No, but that first half of the season is all about him just building up this head of steam. And as you said, he's carrying the team in terms of what was there. And Sahin, was Sahin that season or was he that previous season? Because I'm trying to think, the season before. Yeah, so we have, because we've done some mad transfers and the squad was just sort of...
Was Aspas and Luis Alberto that year? They were
Aspas was brought in to cover the period, essentially to cover the period that Suarez had been banned for at the start of the season.
And the only goal he scores for Liverpool isn't on TV, it's against Oldham in the Cup.
Yeah. I saw that game.
So there you go. Thor says Arsenal were top before coming to Anfield. They were. We do beat Spurs. We bashed Spurs at White Hart Lane, and Suarez is captain that day actually because Gerrard's not out. And Gerrard's in the studio that day saying, "I'll be doing well to get back into this bleeding team." But it's definitely, for me, it's the Arsenal one where they just come out and blitz Arsenal. He doesn't score, Suarez that day, but he's just fucking everywhere.
He nearly does.
He nearly scores the best goal of all time. But
it's as you said, what was your trademark? Every time you think of it, you're always thinking of that because it's so mad. It's just ping the dunk.
It's like we're winning, and I think it's 4-0. I think it's about 4-0 at the time. And it's a corner. Goals in that game, it's a corner, right? It's a corner. And Suarez just decides on this corner, I'm just going to wander out here, like literally 10 yards outside the box for this corner, and I presume it's Gerrard takes it and just spots him and pings this thing at him. And he just hammers it. And it's so fast. It's so hard that you don't actually realise what's happening until Kolo Touré is putting a ball wide in front of an open goal. It's that pure of a strike. It was absolutely unbelievable. And he was an absolute joy to watch. Like, we've seen Torres, we've seen loads of players have brilliant individual seasons, and Salah up there as well. Salah does 44 in his fourth season, you know what I mean, in all comps. But that Suarez one is just, it was just magic because the team we had, you were kind of going, could he actually do this? And Seany, week on week, he was doing mad stuff. Like, it was just, we go away to Cardiff, right? And we win 6-3, and he's bundling fellas out of the way in the last minute and sitting the keeper on his arse. Like, he just
I remember that.
Mad every week it was mental every week.
Hat-tricks after hat-trick. You were saying Salah does 44 in a season there, but like Salah is missionary sex compared to Suarez. Suarez is have you swinging out of the ceiling and leather straps, madness, fucking absolute mad 100%. Stuff every week. The man got the one Phil talks about there, like it's probably a lesser known one, but against Cardiff, he just cuts inside, and it looks like he's about 2 weeks. And he just passes the ball into the corner. free kick against Everton where he kind of short changes Tim Howard and goes around the wall, then does a mad fucking celebration. He's just losing his head.
Do you remember the one in the derby where we're 3-0 up?
And
we
he's
blitzed
chasing
them,
the ball like a dog.
and then he chased this one,
Yeah.
and Jagielka gives it to him, and he doesn't look like he's moving very fast, but Jagielka can't get anywhere near him, and then he just bumps one across the goal past Howard for 4-0, and he's just lying in front of the cop on his own. The rest of the players are the other half.
Away to United, he scores and slides on that skate his legs and is basically sticking his fingers up at the United fans.
Yeah.
This is after everything that's gone on, like you know, like he was.
And when he gets back against Every, he
fucking-
won't shake his hand.
And even
They,
then,
they
he
had
was
to
still-
dive. They had to dive on him. Do you remember they had to dive on him to get it to tell him to calm down and because they were terrified that he was going to get another ban, and that was all over the news the next day. Look at this thing. He needs to be banned from English football for life. He just doesn't care. It's like this is. Everything was a revenge mission. 13-14 for me in my head. He was so good that season because it was a pure revenge mission for everything that had happened in English football. And I think, look, he had obviously been given the head, right? Get us back into the Champions League, get us to where it is, and we'll give you a transfer. Right now, and he probably doesn't get it because we get back in the Champions League. But it literally feels like, when you go back and look at the goals, it feels like a revenge mission. He plays with so much anger that season. It's like he's taken out every piece of anger, and every time those fans got on his back, he got more and more angry and more and more angry. But can I just point out one thing that always happens, right? And it's one of the bizarrest. It's one of the bizarrest things to the whole Suarez story at Liverpool. Is for some reason he always struggled against James Collins, and I don't know what the reason for that was, right?
Yeah,
To this
yeah,
day,
that's a great show.
Yeah.
I could never figure it out. He's just what had James Collins got?
Yeah, James Collins was like being put across as like Franco
Kryptonite.
Baresi, like it was fucking mad. It was mad, like, and there is players that sometimes just. But you see, James Collins is not a silky defender. You know, I think when you start hitting it off James Collins' shins and
it's
shit,
like
he's going,
Toblerone.
oh, this is my sort of game. You know, the sort of way where is if he was trying to be a bit more silky, James Collins would be going, what the fuck is going on? But
What was doing that Mongo off West Brom? Alton, was it? He literally
Jonas
made
Alton.
him look like
he nuts-
him look
he
like an
nuts
extra
him.
hour Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
he nuts him. But like at the end, we'll go through as many of the great goals, because there's been so many. We'll try to list them for everyone at the end for a little bit of thing. But before we finish up, last thing, Keith, he leaves Liverpool, right? He bites the Chiellini. Liverpool gets 70 odd million, right? And he knows he's going and he gets out, right? And he goes to Barcelona, but you have to hand it to him, Keith, because he goes to Barcelona, and without getting into specifics, he goes to Barcelona. He has whatever amount of seasons at Barcelona, 5, I think, at Barcelona, right? 6. He goes to Atleti. He wins a title there. He's gone back to national now, but yeah, he wins a title on his own for Atletico, really. But Keith, you have to, you know what? As much as you didn't want him to leave Liverpool, you felt like it was a gift Liverpool were giving to the rest of the world to go, listen, you need to appreciate this fella, because I don't think he gets the actually worldwide acclaim that he should have got for his Liverpool days until he actually turns up at Barcelona and starts he just brings the madness to Messi and Neymar and everything, and he's nutmegging David Luiz for fun and bending stuff in the top corner against PSG. It was absolutely unbelievable. But he's just, you have to hand it to him. He just went from strength to strength, didn't he?
He blew up when he left Liverpool, and maybe the Atletico thing, he did carry them, and maybe he loved teams that were built on sand being the focal point of carrying them, because he does it with Atleti. But he goes to Barcelona, and Sean, you might have touched on this earlier, or Phil, or so, or maybe it was before the show. He's their second or third all-time top goal scorer. Do you know what I mean? He's only there for 5 years.
I think he's their second ever highest goal scorer.
And this is ridiculous. What this fella goes and does there, he gets, I think, 59 goals in one of the seasons. The year after he win the treble, he's winning the Pichichi, he's winning the Golden Boot in Europe. And this is in the Messi, Ronaldo era, and he's going in there and he's breaking that up. He's gone in and he was so creative. It wasn't just that he was getting on the end of things. He doesn't get the credit for his creativity. The fella had everything about him. He goes to Barcelona, and I think at the time, wasn't there some sort of a clause or something that he wouldn't buy people and he'd behave? I think Barca were insistent on him sort of publicly saying he'd be behaving himself, because it was
I
always
won't
the
be
end
chewing on
game was to
anybody
get
on the
there.
pitch.
Yeah,
Like, what a fucking class.
yeah. But that was his destination. He wanted to get to Barcelona, and he got to Barcelona, and he just went. And you saw at Barcelona, because at Liverpool it was tainted from the day one. It was tainted because he was serving a ban, and he ended up bookending it with another biting incident and a ban. His Liverpool period is, yeah, you could say it's a black mark on his career, in the sense that a lot of the shy happens around then. After that, he's just
Michael
football. He's brilliant.
Murphy says how he never won a Ballon d'Or was criminal.
I'll tell you why he never won a Ballon d'Or, because of the incidents we've talked about. As much as you
Correct.
boil it down, right? That was the sole reason why he never wins one, is because no matter what, the two players he was up against through that whole period are Messi and Ronaldo, and none of them ever have those parts on their character. And like, as much as we've talked about him, he's playing at a time when those two lads are at their peak as well. And this is no denigration on Suarez's ability, because he was up there with them, and particularly at Barcelona, he was matching Messi all the way in terms of what it was.
But he was up against the two darlings of world football, in fairness.
And not just two darlings, two arguably the two greatest individual players of all time. You could put them up, as I said, I'd put Diego up there as well. And my favourite player of all time, and I believe is the greatest player of all time, is Ronaldinho, because of the same effusiveness that he has for the game as Suarez has. But I can see why he doesn't win the Ballon d'Or, because look what he's up against, and look at what they do all the seasons that he's playing. One of them is winning the Champions League and a league nearly every single year that they're playing.
I know, but I think that the season where he outscores both of them, I think there could be an argument. But you're probably right. His track record probably was held against him. It's a bit like when defenders never win it, really, because it was
an impossible duopoly to break, and it's only, I think, when Modric wins it, isn't it, in 18. Modric wins it because Croatia get to the World Cup final, and I think Real are winning Champions Leagues, and I think he puts in a case for that. Other than that, it was the two of them boys going for it, and he was just, I think you can tell a player, and we said this earlier, you can judge a player by how his peers, that play with him, think of him, and forget about, like, look at Steven Gerrard, what Steven Gerrard says about him. Absolutely loves him, adores him. Look at Lionel Messi. They still holiday together. Do you know what I mean? Like, their families are holidaying every summer. Messi, Fabregas, Luis Suarez. Do you know what I mean? Their families are still together. And I think he's a player that just has, he's the epitome of the red mist. Do you know what I mean? Like, he was the epitome of red mist, and he learned to control it the older he got. But you look, he's in Nacional now. He scored an absolute belter in the Clásico against Penarol there a couple of weeks ago. Left foot, about 30 yards out over the keeper. He's right-footed. Do you know what I mean? This fella could do everything. And I said at the start of the show, and I was saying now, I think he's one of the greatest forward players that's ever played the game, and I think he is criminally underrated for his football ability. I think he's possibly the best centre forward of the last 20 years, but that's all subjective. Other people will have their own opinions, but to me, he stands up against them all.
It's all annoying. He's the best.
Well, MC asked the question.
Yeah.
Question for the lads: Who would you put higher in terms of players, R9 or
R9? We won't get silly now. R9.
Did we do a show about R9 before?
We've done a show on Ronaldo. Yeah, if you go back,
R9 was an alien, but and the highest compliment I could play Suarez is that, look at between R9 and up until now, the wonderful number 9s that have been around, and for me, just like
Ronaldo, Brazilian Ronaldo, whatever the fuck, real Ronaldo, whatever you want to call him. He's phenomenal, just out of this world phenomenal. But Suarez, I agree with Keith. I think he's up there as one of the best strikers you've seen in 20 years.
For me, Suarez is the best centre forward in the last 20 years. because neither Ronaldo or Messi are classic centre forwards.
Yeah.
Ronaldo finishes up playing centre forward, but as a fella who starts as a centre forward and primarily plays as a centre forward, there's that learning bit at Ajax where he played him as a right forward. But once Martin Jol comes in, he's playing in the two. When he comes to Liverpool, he's playing as a two with Andy Carroll. When he's playing in Rodgers' system, although he drifts wide himself, he's the central point of that piece. Sturridge wanted to play out.
And someone says it there as well. Sorry, and I'll get it up because I want to give them credit because it was a good thing. Naeem Yassin says, initially when he arrived at Barca, he played right wing. Messi up top and Neymar on the left. However, when Luis Enrique switched Messi and Suarez position, everything clicked. So they turned and went, listen, Messi, you're going to have to go out and play right hand side. This fella needs to go up front. And it just went bananas. Like, do you know what I mean?
That's where he is for me.
Oh, yeah,
Sorry, that's where he is for me because
I think it's hard to argue.
You could argue Lewandowski and Benzema. You can have that argument in terms of where those
Lewandowski's lived in the Bundesliga, dominating it for many years. You know, I think if Lewandowski had went, or he does the Dortmund stuff, but they're the second best team in Germany. But I think if Lewandowski had went off and played in England, or you know, went to an Atletico in Spain and done it, I'm not begrudging him anything he's done. He's a brilliant goal scorer. But I think if you look at where Suarez has been, you know, Ajax, Liverpool weren't great when he arrives there. He goes to Barca, okay, but he's done it in different leagues and he's done it like so consistently. And just everything he has
and that's why. But that's why I think Ronaldo, in terms of what he's done as a body of work and doing it across multiple leagues with different teams, is really impressive because he's not at a club that the whole system is built around. And Suarez hasn't had a club built around him. He's gone to clubs and made clubs play to his strengths. And that's probably the best thing and the best compliment he can play, the level of talent and skill that guy has.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think he's unbelievable. But best goals. Before we finish, if anyone in the chat wants to throw a few in that the lads don't mention, throw them in. But best goals, you can take turns wherever you want. I still think it's the one against Norwich the third one against Norwich where he flicks over Leroy Fair, and as he's falling backwards, he hits a half volley that's just the fire is fucking.
I think it's a great goal, but like his half volley from inside. Just inside the left-hand side of the halfway line in that match is outrageous on the outside of the right peg with power into the side netting. Right, so you've got your lovely touches over the top of his head, but he hits that on a half volley.
Is this the one he hits and it goes miles in the air and comes down?
It goes into the right-hand side of the net. So there's the one in Norwich at Norwich's ground where he basically rolls in and he hits it like Beckham does just over the halfway line, right? The one I'm talking about was the one before the Leroy Fair goal in the same game where he's out on the other side of the pitch, the left-hand side. The ball bounces up and he's in midair. He hits it with such power and anger. He's in midair as he hits it, and it goes across the pitch and across Brian Gunn into the goal. Yeah, whatever his name is. Your man who's always in goal when Suarez is playing against him. John Ruddy, yeah, there you go, safe fella.
Brian Gunn jumped like John Ruddy.
I mean, a bit on the side.
Him and the man.
It's the half of that.
But and then there's the one that was mentioned that is the one that was disallowed. Do you remember his free kick against Newcastle? It was an outrageous bend from out on the byline. He took it too quickly for the referees, and he called it straight into the top corner. I don't know, my head is blown. I've got so many goals in my head that he scored that it's just. And for Liverpool, and even for 13-14,
have another little think because MC says that header against from 20 yards out against West Brom, the one against Newcastle, I don't care, nothing else matters. He says where he takes her on the chest and on his shoulder, more or less, goes past Tim Krul, I think. Seany, what have you got for us? What's your favourites?
My personal favourite isn't even a Liverpool goal. Yeah. It's a goal against PSG in the quarterfinals of the Champions League. And like he never looked the quickest, did he, Suarez? Like he never looked the quickest.
No,
he just always looked. But the ball breaks in the middle of the park, and David Luiz steps up to snap him in half, and he just nips it through his legs, and he's bearing down on the goal, right? He's bearing down. He's going 1-on-1 with the keeper, right? And he gets to the edge of the box. And 99 strikers out of 100 just roll it into the bottom corner.
but he wraps it in the top
He hits it like a free kick, doesn't he?
Yeah,
for
he whips the
absolutely
thing.
no reason. He
Yeah, for
just
no reason.
wraps it.
He's pretending like there's a wall there and everything. And he's just decided I have to bend this over this wall. And look, he nearly takes the fucking stanchion out.
He just wraps it in the top corner. And if you actually watch the goal back, you can see Messi looking around going, what did he do that for? Like, what did the whistle blow?
It's ridiculous.
Because you know what it was like? Do you ever get when a player goes clean through when he's offside and he's like, fuck, I'm just going to whack this. He just bends it and he puts it in the stanchion. And I think he actually gets a hat-trick in that game. But there's so many. There's another one he gets for Barca where he's running away from goal and the ball's bouncing and he backheels it into the top corner. He backheels it into the top corner. Like, he just that one where he just set the ball up all the time and just passed it into the corner. He done that so much.
He does. He actually scores one against Norwich that's not talked about enough, right? Because he scored loads against Norwich.
Oh, but that's the one with that bowing him, and he just.
No, not that one where he robs the defender. There's another one against Norwich. It's at the other end of the ground, and he's putting down the inside right channel, and he lets the ball come up. He lets the ball catch up with him, and he hits this fucking thing like a crude missile, and it doesn't go an inch off the ground. It just fucking smashes across goal into the far corner, and you're like, my J's. And when they show from behind the goal, online with it, he just absolutely wellies it in. Like it's have a look at it. If you just type in Suarez against Norwich, you'll see it. But it's literally one where he's put in the right hand channel, and he just hits this thing bang, and it's actually frightening how hard he hits it and how it's just right in the corner. You go back and watch it; it's unbelievable. The one away at Spurs where he chips Lloris, the ball gets played to him by that fellow Ian mentioned earlier. What's his name? Who signed with? He's at Lazio now. Where he was at Lazio. What's his name?
Alberto.
Yeah, he puts him through and he just runs onto it, and on the half volley, he just bum on over Lloris, and he's captain, and he runs over to Liverpool fans, pissing rain out. Spurs fans don't know what's going on. That was brilliant as well. There's just so many of them.
His first away goal is one we haven't talked. Remember the black and yellow Liverpool jersey against Sunderland?
He's on the end line. Yeah,
he's on the and he just
runs.
He just plays it. He's literally on the byline. Like my favourite Liverpool though. That was one when you went, for fuck's sake.
Was that a blaster past Mignolet as well?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It goes, and in fairness, it's right.
Yeah.
He doesn't put it near Mignolet's hand or head. He puts it right in the gap where it's like it's past Mignolet before he even sees it. Keith, any few favourites?
They're all being mentioned there, the Barcelona one as well against PSG will be mine, and the Newcastle one where Luis Enrique pops it over the top, and Jose Enrique pops it over and he just takes it down in midair and goes around. It's outrageous array of skills. But the thing about Suarez, it's the ones he didn't score. It's the volley against Arsenal that hits the post. It's the hat-trick that Dorkout scores against Man United that he owes to Luis Suarez on all of them. He's just an absolutely outrageously talented footballer. But my favourite goal of his is the Barcelona one against PSG. But for Liverpool, it's the Newcastle one. He scored so many belters. He hit the ball so clean, and he whacked the ball with not much backlift or anything, and he just drilled it like a bleeding missile. But the Newcastle one, the technique of that over the shoulder, just take it down, not break the stride, around the keeper, roll it in. That was the one that probably stands out for me for his Liverpool career.
He scores one against Spurs.
The one against
14
in the Carabao was brilliant as well.
Yeah, that was great. But the one against Spurs, right? Tim Sherwood is the manager, right? I think Tim Sherwood is the manager of Spurs. I don't know how he's ended up there, but he has, right? And Spurs are like 1-0 down. An early on goal, I think, was it Kubal or something was your man's name at the fucking play, the centre half of them. But anyway, Spurs are 1-0 down. Tim Sherwood's sitting up in the main stand at Anfield watching this because that's the sort of fella Tim Sherwood is. And they have to bring on a defender, I think. It might be Dawson they have to bring on. And literally Dawson's first touch, right, is to not hit a pass properly. And it just drops at Suarez's feet about 40 yards from goal. And Suarez just shows no mercy to him. Just plows past him, runs right through, and then just hits this horrible scuttery one across the keeper in the far corner. And just runs off with his hand in the air. You can see Dawson in the background going, this is a load of me bollocks. Like, only on the pitch, one bad touch. And this fella's at the absolutely crucifying me. I love stuff like that. you know, where he's just ruthless.
Yeah.
But you could probably go on all night. But someone
My-
says
my-
that Norwich one was a
one of
toe poke.
my-
It wasn't. He absolutely hammered it. Eunice Kabul, yeah, says Manas. Yeah, that's who I was thinking of.
One of my favourites doesn't have any grace at all. I think it's Chesterfield in the FA Cup. Or the
Where he
Carabao
handles it.
and but that to me is Suarez, because we
Yeah.
talked about at the very start about his ability to just control the ball with shins and everything he get his hands on, and he basically just ramroded himself through a load of lads, ball bouncing everywhere, used his hand, hits the goalkeeper, hits him, hits the defender, hits him again, and at some stage he just ends up standing behind the goalkeeper with an empty net and he's just kicking it.
Yeah, and then everyone's going handball and he's going, yay, goal.
Was it? And he kissed the
Yeah,
list,
he does
wasn't
his-
it?
he
'Cause
does
always
his thing and
does
all,
it.
yeah, he does
And they were all
everything.
in uproar about it. Look, he's saying he handled it. He's kissing the handball. Fuck
Yeah,
off.
that's right, because
Unreal.
he always kissed one of his fingers and his
daughter's
wrist.
name or something. Was
Yeah, and he always done that every goal he scored. And when he done that day, Macclesfield or something, whoever it was
it?
against,
Mansfield. wasn't it?
Mansfield, something like that, and he does that, and everyone's the next day is going, look, he's actually thrown in our face here that he's
Yeah.
fucking cheating because he's kissing the hand that it touched that. No,
They had the
absolutely
Bishop
mad.
of Mansfield and all on the telly giving out about him.
The Bishop of Mansfield. But it was just listen, we could go on all night. There was so many fucking good goals. There was so many good moments. There was one moment in particular where he didn't cover himself in glory at all with Patrice Evra. He was trying to eat people, which was absolutely mental. But overall, Luis Suarez, like, you wouldn't, like, people are saying now he's out of contract, would you take him in January for 6 months? And
Yes.
you know, I would as well, just for the fucking crack, just to see what had happened. Because
I tell you what, he's not done yet, because like
He's
it's
45
not
now.
completely out of realm. It's not completely out of realm of possibility that he does something absolutely bonkers at this World Cup.
yeah. I know he's well able.
Last
Like,
one.
he's naturally fit. He's an absolute machine when it comes to, because he didn't get injured an awful lot, and even when he was injured, he tried play. You know, so but look, it's been an absolute pleasure to talk about Luis Suarez.
198 goals for Barcelona, right?
Yeah.
82 for us in 133 games, and he scored 48 in 49 games for Ajax. Like,
Yeah.
the fella is a machine.
He's 70
And when you
goals
say
in
would you-
100 and odd games for Uruguay. as
Uruguay.
well. Yeah.
So if you say it, like, a fella who's still scoring goals and still capable of scoring goals, if you had him to come off the bench and play in some of the League Cup games or the FA Cup games with the passion and everything he brings, and the absolute stir that would cause in the English media, will bring me
Suarez
back
rocked
to
back
watching
up at
football
Anfield.
again.
But you remember the one, I don't know what band it was after, because there's been a few, but you remember where he goes, I think, is it away at Chelsea, where he gets an equaliser
Yeah.
at
the
Stamford
header.
Bridge,
He runs
and
up
he's
to the camera.
and he's running up to the camera and the fans, and he's going berserk, and all his teammates are nearly afraid to celebrate with him because I think he's under investigation, and he doesn't give a fuck. He's in front of the away end of Stamford Bridge, absolutely going rasher, and all the other players are running back going, oh, come on, Lewis, will you? Like, you know what I mean? It's not the best at the minute.
Say
He's
his
like,
name
no, I
now,
want
will
to
you?
score and fuck this.
Right, now we keep the head down, will you? Just get on with it.
And he's like, no,
yeah.
I'm at scoring a
He's
goal.
roaring in the camera like Maradona at the World Cup.
Yeah. Right, look,
Just
that's it.
before Maradona gets kicked out of the World Cup for taking drugs, like this. If ever you wanted to have parallels, this.
The comparisons were made.
Yeah.
He's
Comparisons were made.
just insane stuff. But look, it's been nearly an hour and a half. It's been absolutely brilliant talking about Luis Suarez, and it's good that we get a chance to do this. When Liverpool aren't playing, we try to do this stuff, and it's a bit of crack.
This could literally be a trilogy. This could be a trilogy.
It could be. It
I'm
could
not
be.
even joking you.
But look, that has been the Man on Football show with the LFC Daytrippers tonight. Thanks to Phil, Seany, Keith. Nothing on tomorrow. I think Kev is bringing us a show on Friday night, despite there being no Premier League football. I think he's gonna look at the successes and the non-successes of the league so far, even though it's in its infancy. But he wants to have a look at players that have performed and not performed. But Bobby's wish to walk, most importantly, is €8,300 from its target now.
Fair play.
I remember last week saying this was a 17,000 away, and it just seems to keep going and going and going. So, listen, as the lads say, the fivers and the tenors being put in is what adds up really, really quickly. The link is in the description. If you want to donate, please do so if you can. If you can't, take the link and send it to your family, your friends, your colleagues, whoever, because one of them might donate and send it on, and then another person might donate, and we'll get to that 150,000, or Bobby will, ASAP. Shawnee, anything else before we go? No,
all good, Cav.
all right,
All
good
good. I'm
stuff.
gonna go and watch that fucking.
I'm going to watch the last episode of Better Call Saul. Keith,
Now, can I just say the picture of Luis Suarez there in his Ajax gear, he looks suspiciously like Alan Lawson in it. So if anyone knows Alan, he's got that Luis Suarez vibe going on.
let me see. Phil, anything else before we go?
Can we do this for Ronaldinho? I get really excited if we could do this.
Did
for
we not do
Ronaldinho.
Ronaldinho? Did we not?
I wasn't on it.
Yeah,
I
we
want
can
to
do
be honest.
Ronaldinho.
We might
Yeah.
not have done. I don't think we done one.
We can do Ronaldinho, yeah.
Well, that's what got me really excited. But I will say that just to finish out on Luis Suarez, it's been, for me, he made that whole period tolerable, and that period being the post Hodgson up to getting our mojo back in 13-14, because it was such a barren spell from the 08-09 season to his arrival was just horrific. So, and I always have him for thank for that, and all the stuff, all the bad stuff that came along. Like now you look back at it and it's like it's the story, isn't it? Like every other story is just a player who was here. This has a story, and it's a movie. Somebody eventually is going to write the movie of this, and it's like it's going to be interspersed with everything that's going on. But yeah.
If he wins the World Cup, they'll do a movie on him. No deal. Right, let's get out of here. It's gone past 11:30. Bedtime for a lot of people. That has been it. Talk to you in a bit. Over now.